So, as a mom in eating disorder recovery, I did and knew all the things. I did the work in therapy. I could tell you what my triggers were and what my hunger cues and fullness cues were like. I could recite every intuitive eating principle. And yet, as a mom in eating disorder recovery, especially in early motherhood with really little young children, I would find myself repeating food behaviors that I was trying so hard to break, like finding myself standing in front of the pantry at 9 p.m., eating out of a cereal box, just feeling like I'm eating out of control and struggling with shame and guilt again, feeling like, why am I still struggling with this? I'm a mom, I have kids, I've been doing the work, and yet I still find myself repeating these food behaviors that I'm trying so hard to break free from for myself and for my kids. And if you have found yourself in that same boat today, I want you to know that you are not alone. This is something that's actually really common and comes up a lot. And for moms in eating disorder recovery, we may feel like I've done so much work and you may have been in recovery for years. And yet, when you find yourself in the thick of motherhood, all of these things are resurfacing or coming up again, or you're finding yourself dealing with past struggles that you thought were behind you. And so today, I just want to unpack this with you, not with shame, but with compassion and just to support you in a way that you can move through this in a gentle, life giving, nurturing way. So here's the thing that not many people are talking about, and that is that our food and body struggles are not just information. These are survival patterns. These are nervous system responses and emotional wounds that many of us just didn't choose. And when we're in the thick of motherhood, we're in the trenches, we're dealing with overstimulation and sleep deprivation and pushing our needs to the back burner, it's easy to default to the things and the coping mechanisms that helped us at some point in our life. And again, this is why it's important for us to normalize these things that's happening, because you don't want to keep beating yourself up for something that you've learned how to do out of need for survival. Your brain is actually brilliantly defaulting to the coping mechanisms that it knows has helped you in the past. And that is not something to be ashamed of. And there are some things that you can do to help you through this. So let's talk about 3 common reasons why you might find yourself struggling with food or struggling with old behaviors that you thought were behind you now that you're a mom. Even if you're an informed mom, even if you're a mom who's done all this healing work and yet you find these things coming up to the surface again. So first is that you didn't have the modeling to know any different, right? A lot of us are trying to do things for our kids that we didn't have modeled to us. And this includes coping mechanisms. This includes learning how to take care of ourselves and attend to our emotional needs in a healthy way. A lot of us just didn't have that modeled to us, and we're trying to do it so hard for our kids. And yet we may still have that inner child inside who wants so desperately to be taken care of and to be attuned to as well. And so this can be a big reason why you find yourself defaulting to these behaviors, even though you're learning and you're trying so hard to develop these different coping skills. When you fall into these really challenging situations, especially emotionally and mentally, it's really easy to default to what we didn't have modeled to us. The second one is that you are probably running on empty, emotionally and physically and mentally. Being a mom is so demanding in that way, in that you're constantly pouring out from yourself into your kids. But the problem is that so many of us don't know how to take care of ourselves with our kids, right? It's so challenging how to figure this out, especially in the thick of it. And you're juggling all these different things. You might be working, you might be taking care of multiple children. And it's hard when we're so depleted and we find ourselves skipping meals or eating the crumbs off of our kids' plates or hiding snacks and eating them or feeling like we're binging in the pantry. This is not just about the food. It's about trying to fill and meet these unmet needs. When those needs are going unmet for so long, that is going to come out in some way. And for a lot of us, that is what our food behaviors are symbolic of. Okay, the third one may be that you are carrying unresolved shame. For so many of us, our eating behaviors or our eating struggles are connected to something so much deeper. Maybe you have been struggling with an eating disorder for decades. Maybe you've been dieting your whole life or put on a diet from a young age as a child or bullied because of your body size. all of these experiences are internalized in our body and something that can build over time, especially if we haven't had a safe space to effectively process and heal from our pain, from the shame that we've been carrying, all of those things. It's kind of like the iceberg analogy, where on the surface we see just the eating behavior, right? Like the hiding the snacks or binging alone at night when the kids have gone to bed or restricting meals all day, whatever that might look like is what we're seeing on the surface. But underneath that, underneath the surface, what we can't see are all of our past experiences and trauma and pain and struggles around food in our body that are sitting there. So, of course, it's hard when all of these different things are coming at you in life that you're going to fall back to what feels safe, especially if what you're carrying within you does not feel safe. So, if you have said to yourself, this is me, I'm totally struggling with things that I thought were behind me, and I hate that I'm struggling with food or my body now that I'm a mom, especially as a mom, because you just want to do right by your kids. You want your kids to have a positive relationship with food and their bodies, and you don't want your struggles to affect them. I totally get it, and I'm with you. And I want you to know there is hope. And really, it starts with awareness. And again, just the fact that you're watching this tells me that you're aware that something's going on that needs a little more help and support. And that really is my first step of recommendation for you, is to just practice awareness of what's coming up. I think so often when we find ourselves regressing to these food behaviors that we thought we have gotten behind us, so much shame, so much immense shame can pile up. And it can make us hard for us to really examine what's happening from a really compassionate viewpoint if we're being so critical and judgmental of ourselves. So I just want to encourage you to think about, how can you lean into what's happening with yourself with just some gentle awareness, and start practicing compassion too when these things do come up, telling yourself, yeah, this is really hard. This is hard being a mom and holding all these things on my plate, and also trying to figure out how to take care of myself and how to do all these things that were never modeled to me. It's a lot, but starting with compassion for yourself can be very powerful. Second step to just consider is to think about feeding yourself like you do your kids. I think as moms, we're very intentional about making sure that our kids are well fed, have enough food, are getting variety. We're really like on top of that when it comes to our kids. And it makes sense. Like, you care so much about your kids. You want the best for them. And I want you to think about reflecting some of that care back to yourself. What would it look like to feed yourself and nourish yourself consistently more throughout the day? And this is not about perfection, but even just thinking about like eating with your kids, like when your kids are eating, making something for yourself, or being intentional about feeding yourself at the same frequency that you do with your kids. When our basic needs, physical needs like hunger and eating enough, are going unmet, it makes our emotional needs so much more raw. And so I just want to encourage you to think about feeding yourself more regularly and seeing how that can be such an impactful, valid form of self-care that can help you navigate this emotional front a lot easier. And that's the third step, really, is to name the emotion that might be coming up for you. So if you find that you're being aggravated, or that you're frustrated, or that you're overwhelmed, when we can name those things, it helps us like alleviate the pressure off of us in so many ways. Because again, I think we can just internalize this from a shameful way. Like, I'm so bad. I'm not strong enough. I'm not doing good enough. But when we're standing in front of the pantry, reaching for the snacks, and find ourselves like eating in a way that feels out of control, naming what is going on can be so helpful and so validating, right? Like, okay, I think I'm feeling really overwhelmed. It's been a really long day. I'm super overstimulated. I feel like I have a to-do list that never ends. Like, all of these things can help us give name to what we're really feeling and dealing with. I know this is hard, so I have a guide that can help support you through this if you're just wanting to learn how to better take care of yourself, especially if you find these food struggles reemerging in your motherhood. So be sure to check that out in the link, and just know that you're not alone. And I'd love for you to stay connected here in this space for more help and support through your motherhood journey.